Hey there, guys. So yeah, let's talk about this upcoming heavyweight fight between Zhilei Zhang and Joseph Parker that's going to be taking place in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, I believe Zhilei Zhang is a slight favourite with the odds makers, and I think most people expect him to win this fight. Just judging what I've seen on social media and in the YTBC and whatnot, I think most people expect him to beat Joseph Parker by knockout. Um, and a lot of people are very high on Zhilei Zhang at this current moment in time. He's coming off two devastating victories over Joe Joyce, especially the second fight. And yeah, a lot of people seem to think he beat Filip Hrgović as well. So a lot of people seem to think Zhilei Zhang is, he's the man. He's like one of the main men in the heavyweight division. And yeah, I definitely think Zhang's a very good fighter. I think he's got a lot of attributes which he brings to the table. And the same with Joseph Parker. I mean, Joseph Parker's getting a lot of hype at the moment. He's coming off a victory against Deontay Wilder, where not many people expected him to do it. Most people thought he was going to get knocked out by Wilder, and just go down like a sack of spuds, like most of Deontay Wilder's opponents, not even trying to win. But no, he actually came to win the fight, and he gave Wilder a boxing lesson. So both guys are going into this fight in good form. Both are coming off winning runs. And yeah, it's a fight that intrigues me. I think stylistically this fight might be quite similar to the Filip Hrgović versus Zhang fight, which was, with a lot of people's opinions, that fight was quite controversial. Me personally, I thought Filip Hrgović won that fight. I thought he just outworked Zhang. There were rounds in that fight where Zhang was, he was just trying to conserve his energy, go the 12 rounds. And Filip Hrgović, who, has shown quite good stamina in his career, he's shown that he can go 12 rounds at a good pace. He was just able to outwork Zhang in enough of the rounds to get the decision, in my opinion. So I had no problem with the decision, personally. And stylistically, I think this fight is a bit more similar to that. Than Zhang's fight against Joe Joyce, for example. I think the fights against Joe Joyce, I'm not trying to like discredit Zhang or whatever, but I think they made him look a bit better than what he actually is. If you know what I mean. I think Zhang, Joe Joyce was like a punching bag in both of those fights. He didn't really, especially the second fight, he didn't really bring much to the table in the second fight. I don't even know what he was playing at, to be honest. He didn't really look like he was. After the first round, it didn't even look like he was in the fight at all, to be honest. And it was just a matter of time. The first fight was quite competitive between Joyce and Zhang in some of the rounds. Joe Joyce was able to have success in some of the rounds just by outworking Zhang. But then you could give those rounds to Zhang anyway, just based on him landing the cleaner, harder shots. Which the left hand was like snapping Joe Joyce's head back, quite consistently. But I thought Joe Joyce, he probably won about 2 rounds in the first fight, something like that, 2 out of 5, just by outworking Zhang. And in that fight, even in that fight, there were rounds where Zhang was having to sort of lower his punch output just to give himself a break, just to go. You'll notice, like, if you watch the Filip Hrgović fight back, Zhilei Zhang's someone who has to really pace himself to go 12 rounds. I think he probably learned in the Jerry Forrest fight that he can't really, go 12 rounds at a good pace. I think a lot of people say he has stamina issues, and I definitely think that's true. If you look at the Hrgović fight, he was very low output, to be honest. And even though Zhilei Zhang's very accurate. He doesn't really tend to waste what he throws, but sometimes he tends to be quite low output, in fights, just because he's conserving his energy and trying to get through the 12 rounds. Like, you look at the Hrgović fight in the last 3 rounds or so, he didn't really do anything at all, to be honest. He didn't really open up that much, just because he was pretty gassed. And in the Hrgovic fight, in like the mid rounds, he didn't really do a lot because he was just conserving his energy. And Zhang is definitely someone who has to conserve his energy, because he's got quite poor stamina, as we've seen, against Jerry Forrest and Hrgovic and in other fights. And I think, as I've said, I think this fight will be quite similar to the Filip Hrgovic fight. I think, Joseph Parker's a lot different than Joe Joyce. Whereas Joe Joyce was just coming to sort of stand in front of Zhang and try and break him down to the body, just outwork him, sort of outlast him, stop him late. I think Joseph Parker is definitely going to use a lot more movement. I think he's going to probably try and do what Filip Hrgovic was doing, just try and outwork him from the outside. Just use his movement, try and stay out the way of Zhang's left hand. And I think to beat Zhang, I don't think you just sort of stand in front of him, as Joe Joyce learned. I think you have to, use lateral movement. Always stay on the move. Never really give Zhang a chance to set himself, to be able to throw punches, because he's very accurate when he throws. I think you have to really put him off balance and never give him like a still target. I think you always have to keep moving. And Joseph Parker, to me, has shown better movement than Joe Joyce and probably Filip Hrgovic as well. Joseph Parker's, when he wants to move in a fight, he is quite a good mover. He's got quite good footwork. I think Zhang is a bit slow-footed. Even though he's got fast hands, I don't think he's got the fastest feet. And I think Joseph Parker will definitely be able to move around the ring quite effectively in this fight. And the way I see this fight going, I think Zhang is definitely going to be very dangerous. Even though in the Filip Hrgovic fight, Zhang was gassed late in the fight, he still hurt Hrgovic in the 9th round, I believe it was, quite badly. So Joseph Parker is definitely going to have to be on his game, all 12 rounds if it goes that far. But I think Zhang is going to be very dangerous in the first 6 rounds. And Joseph Parker is going to have to be very aware of that left hand, the right hook. And Zhang is probably one of the biggest punchers in the heavyweight division. And he's very accurate, as I've said. He doesn't waste shots. He's very efficient. What he throws, he really means. And when he throws, he usually lands. And I think Joseph Parker will probably have to be a lot more mindful in the first 6 rounds, because Zhang is going to be fresh and he's going to have all the energy to throw, hard shots, which are going to be very dangerous. But as the fight progresses, I think Joseph Parker will start to, up his punch output. I think he'll start to outwork Zhilei Zhang. I think he will probably. I saw a TalkSport interview with Joseph Parker. He says he's going to use his movement and try and break Zhang down, just tire him out. I think that strategy is definitely what he's going to try and do. I think it's the right approach in this fight. I think Joseph Parker will use his movement. And when Zhang starts breathing with his mouth open, when he starts to get a bit more tired, more lethargic, I think Joseph Parker will probably try and open up a lot more. And I think there'll be rounds where he outworks Zhang. I think he'll win those rounds based on work rate alone. Where Zhang is just trying to conserve his stamina. And late in the fight, I can see Joseph Parker having a lot of success. I think he will be able to outwork Zhilei Zhang just based on work rate in the last couple of rounds. But I definitely give Zhang a chance. He has, obviously, he's a very devastating puncher, and he can knock anyone out on his day. And Joseph Parker does get hit. We've seen Joseph Parker get hit. He's been knocked down a couple of times before. But to be fair, Joseph Parker has shown a very good chin in his career. He was able to go the distance with the likes of Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz, guys like that. So if I'm honest, I think the most likely outcome for this fight is Joseph Parker on points. I think the fight will be quite close. I think it'll be like the Hrgovic fight. But I think this time people will actually think that Joseph Parker won the fight. I think he will probably have the consensus on his side that he won the fight. And I think he might win the fight something like by an 8-4 sort of decision. 8-4, maybe 9-3. And yeah, that's how I see the fight going. I think in the first sort of 6 rounds, I think Zhilei Zhang's very dangerous. I think he will probably, Parker will have to endure some hairy moments. He might get hurt in the fight. He might get stunned. He might have to tie Zhang up just to get a break after being hurt. But I think once the mid rounds come on, I think Parker will start to up his punch output. And I think he'll start to outwork Zhang. I don't see Parker stopping Zhang. Zhang is someone who can survive even when he's hurt. He's got a granite chin. So I think he'd be able to go the distance. But as the fight goes on, I think Parker will start to progressively outwork him. And I think Joseph Parker will take a decision in this fight. And yeah, I believe most people will think he has done enough to win this time. So yeah,